Hello and welcome to Shite Talk Season 2, Episode 11. Surprise episode, or not if you listened to the episode yesterday. This is a two-parter. Kevin, do you want to explain?
It's a long-ass story, I think, is the only real explanation. We recorded long into the night.
And we didn't record last week, so now we have...
No.
Because we meant to put this out last week, but life got in the way.
Sure.
Anyone who's heard this, the first part of this two-parter, probably doesn't need a recap. So let's just do an intro where we say, hey, give us some money on buymeacoffee.com, Shite Talk History, or go follow us on Instagram at Shite Talk History. If you've listened to any of the other episodes, you'll have heard all of this before, so why not just go and do it?
Yeah, just, we love you for it. We love you already, but I mean, that'd be nice.
Love you more.
Yeah. Who says money can't buy you love? It can, in this specific instance. It can also buy you coffee and apparently Libsyn subscriptions. So,
well, yes, I was saying it's not really about the love. I'm kind of looking for a chicken fillet roll to be sent over to me in Texas, but to be kept 100% preserved.
Postage and packaging ain't cheap. Yeah, if you do us a mad solid for our metrics, give us a review on iTunes. I don't know where else you can do reviews.
Any of the podcast app, Kevin, any of those that you're on, leave us a review, tell your friends about it, follow us on Instagram so you'll know when the next season's coming out. It should be early March, hopefully the week leading into Paddy's Day. That's the aim. Other than that, we will be keeping you up to date with a new podcast called Kevin and Jason Got Cancelled, or Jason and Kevin Got Cancelled, whichever you think's a better title.
Yeah, you can email us in your votes on that. So, yeah, we'll do one or two episodes of that in the down season.
And that'll just be an update of what we've been up to as people in our lives, as a comedy career, as we're getting ready for the next season of Shite Talk. We'll also be giving some shout-outs to people that have been in contact over the last couple of months or year. And all of that.
Doing some corrections of various things that we noticed.
Things that we've noticed, things that you've... as listeners, been very quick to email us in saying you're wrong about all of these points, which has been great. Yes. It's nice to know that we have lots of critical listeners.
We do. I welcome the constructive criticism. But we'll do a bit of housekeeping from all the episodes of the last year, and I think that's pretty much it. So thank you from Shite Talk, from myself, and from yourself, Kevin. Feliz Navidad. Merry spiritual season this mid-January, and here it is, the last episode of Shite Talk for season 2, John Mitchel Part 2.
Oh John, dear John, cheer up your heart, undone it always be, for it's better to die for Ireland's rights than live in slavery.
So on the 7th of April 1850, the Neptune lands in Derwent, Van Diemen's Land. All the prisoners are buzzing because after spending 11 months and 17 days at sea, they're free men. So they wouldn't have even spent that long, really. They would have been there for about 9 months, I suppose.
You've never spent more than a day on the sea.
Yeah, but compared to, they're supposed to be in prison for a few years, you know?
Don't turn around and be like, oh, only 11 months and 17 days. I have photos of you from the ferry across to Edinburgh last year.
Yeah.
Where you couldn't even stay awake for an hour and 15 minutes.
That was
also have another photo of you clutching a green satchel bag with what looks like your life. Because there was a bunch of Rangers fans, sectarian Rangers fans ready to kill you.
Yeah. That was...
and that was all in the space of one trip. So don't...
That was about 2 hours.
Yeah, it was 2 hours. Don't sit there and tell me, they've only done 11 months and 17 days. You couldn't do...
I think 11 months and 17 days is equivalent to 2 hours while surrounded by drunk Rangers fans from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m.
Yeah, that was pretty fair. I shouldn't have brought the green bag. Also shouldn't have started talking about James McLean so loudly.
No, I loved my naivety as well, where it's like, oh, is there a football match on today? And you just, in hushed tones, but it's Rangers.
Yeah, it's like, shut the fuck off, please. My voice is very southern.
Shut your mouth.
At least Kevin can pull off the border accent. I don't have that.
Hold this green bag for me.
Oh, that's 100% what happened at the time as well. I was like, quick, take this, hide it.
Yes. But so Mitchell is kept on the ship while they decide what to do with him. They're thinking of sending him back to solitary in Bermuda or put him in jail on Maria Island, where his old mates William O'Brien and Francis Meagher were. The two boys had since been arrested for their part in the Young Islanders Rebellion and had been sent to Van Diemen's Land. So they're all eventually offered tickets of leave, which basically meant that they're on parole. So they get this like parole ticket, and they're entitled to certain privileges, so they can bring their families over to Tasmania. They couldn't congregate with each other, they couldn't hold weapons or board a ship, but they've basically just got free run of the island. I think they have to check in with the magistrate once a month, and they have to promise not to escape. That seems to be the big thing. Mitchell, but like,
promise not to escape.
no, Jen, it comes up a lot in this bit of the story, but like that, right? So Mitchell's pretty sick, probably due to being stuck on the ship the whole time and solitary before that. So he takes the deal, and so does Meagher, but O'Brien doesn't take it because he wanted to escape and he didn't want to give his word that he wouldn't. And I think also there's an element of like, if he accepts the parole, that's like admitting they're a legitimate prisoner, and they sort of see themselves as political prisoners, I suppose.
Okay.
But it does, like, he's basically just saying, like, you can wander around this island and all you have to do is promise you won't escape. And he says, I can't do that. And he goes about trying to escape. So he's almost broken out twice.
But I mean, I think we might have talked about that before. What country is it? Is it Germany or where that doesn't add on extra years to your sentence if you try to escape the prison you're put in, because it's seen as a normal thing for a human being to do? I
think when we brought that up, we were a bit unsure about it, but I looked it up afterwards then, and that is the case. Yeah, there's no extra time tacked on. But, in similar style, O'Brien was almost broken out twice. The second time, he was supposed to ditch his armed guard and run to the shore when he saw a boat. But someone had tipped off the guards, and after he waded out to his co-conspirators, they hopped out with muskets, and they were all arrested. During the standoff, O'Brien refused to move, hoping to force the constable to shoot him, but he was taken back to Port Arthur. So it seems like he's just trying to make himself be a martyr. But after this, he gave up and gave the necessary parole to take the ticket of leave so he could walk around free again. Which doesn't, I mean, he tried to escape and then he's still offered the parole. It just seems like a lot of it seems to be weighing on like your gentleman's agreement.
Yeah, that seems.
Yeah. Even though he's tried to escape twice, he's like, right, I'll stop doing that, but also give me more freedom, please.
Well, that's a fair trade-off. You tell them, I will stop doing this if you give me what I want.
Sure, it is a fair trade-off if you believe that he won't escape. Which, in fairness, he doesn't. So, yeah. But Mitchell got on grand in Van Diemen's Land. So despite being forbidden to meet with the rest of the young Irelanders, they all met up frequently and just seemed to chill around, go hunting, have a lovely old time. So the guards treated them with respect, and in his jail journal, he describes how, they would tip their hats to him. All the while they'd be guarding chain gangs of other Irishmen who were there for, shooting hares or stealing a pheasant or something. So those guys are in chains, doing back-breaking labor, and the guards
spitting hares, pheasants open.
Yeah, and the guards are guarding them. Meanwhile, people who actually tried to form a rebellion in the country are just walking around having a grand time. So it seems like you just need to really double down on your crimes.
But I said that earlier on. Just double down on everything.
Yeah.
It's the same as I don't know. If anyone out there, don't take relationship advice from me. But I've always said it. If you're into something weird, make that your thing. If you're really into tattoos, then fair enough, get a face tattoo, because then you'll make yourself far more obvious to the people who are also into that kind of thing.
That's, solid advice. I feel bad for anyone who immediately, as soon as you said relationship advice, hit the skip 30-second button. Cause...
Oh yeah, go back now and listen to that bit. But yeah, if if you have some kind of a kink, or if you have a particular thing that you're into, it doesn't have to be a kink or a fetish. If you like one particular thing, stop pretending to be like the masses. Make that one thing you're into. Like if it's headbutting Kevin in public without him knowing, like if that's the thing you're into, just do it as obviously and as frequently as possible. Because then other people that are into that will know it, and then you'll make yourself more visible to them. So if that's your thing, then you just go ahead and just start stitching Kevin some loaves. Or maybe if your things like feet, like sucking toes, then just start headbutting Kevin. Because at least then people will know that you're into toes.
Listen, suck my foot.
Foot off.
So, even though Mitchell he's the freedom of the whole island, basically, he constantly writes in his journal about how he views the whole place as one big dungeon. There's a couple of very nice entries where he's just talking about like sniffing nice flowers or having a lovely jaunt down a merry valley, and then he'll see a guard and be reminded that he's got no freedom at all, apart from the quite substantial amount of freedom he seems to have.
So in that sense, he's like a representation of his own nation.
He is, yes. So on the 3rd of January 1853, Mitchell was informed that a man by the name of Pat Smith had been deployed from New York to break O'Brien and possibly others off the island. Smith had been an agitator in Ireland and had fled the British to America, where he got involved with nationalist newspapers, raised some money, and then planned a daring escape for the boys. The plan was to smuggle them out in a ship, but O'Brien argued that he had already had his chance to escape, and that since each attempt cost money that was raised for the cause, he wanted Mitchell to give up on his parole and avail of Smith's opportunity to escape. So this is where it comes back to the idea of he didn't want Mitchell to escape unless he went and gave up his parole, so that he could escape honestly.
Because each parole attempt cost money.
Or each escape attempt cost money. He is on parole basically, but part of the parole is that he's promised not to escape. So yes. Smith says if he's going to escape, he has to go and give up his parole and then escape like an honest man. Which, if he's out free and then suddenly just comes in and says, oh, by the way, I'm giving up this, including the bit where it says I'm going to not escape.
Exactly.
He's on high alert then.
Yeah.
So,
you'd be looking at him. You'd be looking at him.
I read over all this a lot because this comes up a few more times and it doesn't make any sense other than the fact that they were obviously just more honest than you or I. But
hey, don't fucking put me into the same boat as yourself.
I would exactly try to put you in the same boat as me and get off Van Diemen's Land. That'd be the whole plan. And you'd be like, we better tell the guards, man. But if they escape, like, they're not going to be annoyed because it's like when you're trying to get into a country and you have to fill out a box saying, you know, are you a member of a terrorist organization? If you say no, when they catch you, they're not going to be annoyed that you lied on the form. They're going to be annoyed about the terrorism. So if you break out of this penal colony, they're not going to be annoyed that you lied about it.
No, I imagine when that's a thing, it's more of a case of they have you lying to, like, officially lying to a government agent, which holds a crime of its own, so that even if they stop you from doing something else, and you're only going to get like attempted whatever, or they can't prove it, that means that regardless, they have you on the crime of lying to a government agent.
All right, that all makes a lot of sense. But so Smith, who had given him, well,
sorry, I did, there's no comedy there. I was just like, yeah, I'll drop some knowledge at you there. Okay?
Yeah, that makes sense. My eyes have been opened. But so Smith had the nickname Nicaragua. I don't know if he gave it to himself or someone else did. But when I was reading the story,
I love it.
I know it's great. But when I was reading the story, it was like Smith, codename Nicaragua. No one else has a code name in this story, but they keep calling me Nicaragua after this. So
it's like saying, like, okay, code names. You're John. You're Jerry. You're Jimmy. I'm Lion Fox, and you're Steve. Come on.
Yeah,
he's made that too obvious.
Because I don't know how like nonchalantly you could mention Nicaragua or walking around Van Diemen's Land, but Maybe. But so Nicaragua, he headed off to Melbourne to get a ship, while Mitchell got ready to escape. The police magistrate of the island, Mr. Davis, owned a fantastic horse, which he was going to sell, so Mitchell bought it. Davis said, "I don't know the precise work you want him to do, but you may depend on his courage. If you have a really fast and great horse, don't sell it to one of the prisoners. What are they going to do with a fast horse that's going to be any good for you?"
No, you're right. Yeah, there's absolutely no reason why you could sell a horse. Also, I like the way when you said it, I wanted to call you on it instantly. A fantastic horse.
Yeah.
Which means that someone's wrote this into history, as it wasn't just a horse.
She was
a grand horse. She was a fine old lassie.
She was a particularly good horse, and no good can come of selling a really good horse to someone that you want to try and keep in a certain place. But so on the 18th, Mitchell was informed that the water.
Hey, hold on. That's not necessarily true.
Okay.
What about Oisin from Tir Na Nog?
But yeah, he was trapped on the horse.
Yeah, but that's why giving someone a really good horse to make them stay in a land would be a good. He could go to that land, but he couldn't get off the horse. You thick shite.
Because the whole story is he went off to a distant island not far off the coast, the land of the young. He went off with some beautiful woman he'd met, and then he needs to go back home for his dad's funeral, but he's been gone for too long, and he has to stay on the horse.
The metaphor could be just for life and improvement to yourself in general, as in the idea of going home means that he'll never go back because he finally went back to see the land he left. Could be like Irish American immigrants, people who would have came back and said, "Fuck it, I can't go back to America. I've come home to Ireland.
No.
Even twice is too difficult."
I'm pretty sure it just means that she gave him a bag of ketamine when he went home for his old lad's funeral, and he had to keep sniffing it, or else he'd die.
Because he has a horse.
Because he has to stay on the horse. It's a metaphor.
Yeah,
no horse, Jason. Right. It's ketamine.
It's
obviously.
ketamine. Yeah.
It's ketamine. That's my hot take. But so yeah, on the 18th, he's informed that the water lily is due to leave Melbourne and was going to wait for him on the far side of the island for 2 days. He has to go to Bothwell Police Station and hand back his parole ticket, and then ride his new horse 70 miles across to Spring Brae. But a few days later, the governor informed them that the whole plan was known, that the water lily was being purposely let sail to Van Diemen's Land to be apprehended, and that the police force in Spring Bay had been doubled. So on the 6th of June, Nicaragua heads over to see off the water lily, but the lads accidentally arrest him thinking that he's Mitchell and send him back to Bothwell. So then him and Mitchell get to hang out a bit more, and they decide to double down on this whole breaking out plan. So they find the ship that's leaving for Sydney.
Hold on, so he was wrongly identified as the person that he had to be, and he was sent back then, so hung out with that guy more.
Yeah. So then they were put in the same place by accident, sort of, so they could now plan their escape. But on the 6th of June, Smith and Mitchell find a ship leaving for Sydney that would have them, but while riding towards Bothwell to hand in their parole, they were informed the ship had already left without them. Saying fuck it, they decided to hand in the parole anyway and go hide in the mountains until they could escape. So this is the fourth plan, and all of the plans involve them. So there's always an element of time in this where they need to get to the ship as fast as possible, but they also, on the way to the ship, want to go and hand in their parole saying that they won't escape. Sorry, as in they want to hand in the bit of paper that they promised they wouldn't escape and then escape. Which
honorable men.
It's a little bit fudging the stats. I mean, eventually I'd say just leave it. But anyway, yeah. So they went.
I would have left it again because we just talked about it.
Yes.
If I was the person being handed the I promise not to run away affidavit, instantly I'd be like, can we have 2 men tracking this guy for the next couple of days? Just because this seems like a weird thing to do.
Yeah. In fairness, they seem to be on the ball. Like they do seem to get on top of most of these plots. But anyway, so they went to Bothwell, went into the barracks, armed with revolvers. They walked up to Davis and handed him the note saying, "Sir, I hereby resign the ticket of leave and withdraw my parole. I shall forthwith present myself before the Police Magistrate of Bothwell, at his office, show him a copy of this note and offer myself to be taken into custody." Now, they both have guns, so the fact that you're offering yourself to be taken into custody while you're armed is not exactly an even playing field, I suppose. So Davis can't really do anything because they've got their weapons. The two lads manage to walk out. He shouts after the constable. There's a bit of confusion, and the two lads hop on their horses and head off. So Nicaragua gallops north to look for a ship while Mitchell hides out at a farmhouse. Nicaragua goes to a hotel, asks loudly for horses to Spring Brae, and then hops out a window, climbs up a wall, and gets into a coach going to Lancaster. So when the cops come and find their horses at the hotel, they mistakenly head off to Spring Bay. Davis is
genius.
It is pretty genius, yeah. Davis is not happy and fires the constable who was at the door at the time for being bribed. So apparently news gets around quickly, I guess, and everyone starts making bets as to whether Mitchell had escaped already or whether he was still on the island. So apparently this constable, after getting fired, gets pissed drunk and starts openly gambling for Mitchell's escape that evening. So on the 20th, Mitchell gets sent word that the Don Juan will be at Emu Bay on the 27th to pick him up. On the night of the 24th, Mitchell writes a letter to his wife and one to his mother in New York. Sorry, I don't know if I mentioned that actually. His wife is in Van Diemen's Land now. He's allowed to have her there.
Oh, wait, but while he's a prisoner?
Yes, it's part of the parole thing. So he promises not to escape, and then his wife and family come out. So he's got 4 kids, and I think he has a 5th while he's there.
But then how is he going to escape and bring the 5 kids and the wife?
Well, let's find out together, shall we? He spends 4 days at the shore of Emu Bay waiting for the Don Juan, and then eventually gives up. He's staying with a guy called Miller, and he hatches another scheme with him to go board a ship under the guise of a priest, Father McNamara. He heads towards the port, but is told due to increased supervision around the island they can't take him on, so he'll have to row out into the estuary and just get picked up there. So he rows out with a bunch of lads. He's dressed as a priest, and the steamship just steams on past him, and then they just say it. I think they're out there for hours, and he has to return back to shore. It's pissing rain, and he decides to just chance it with the disguise and gets in his coach under the name Father Blake. So I have no idea why he's changed his disguise name in between these two things. But
so he's the pseudonym, like the fake name, the alias was McNamara, and then he changed it from there for absolutely no reason.
For later that day, he's like, now McNamara needs a disguise. He's Father Blake, played by McNamara, by.
Maybe that actually might be a pretty clever move. They might go like, I wonder what he's wearing, then what's his disguise? They figure out, oh, maybe it's that guy who's a priest who no one's ever seen before.
Sure. What, McNamara? No, I'm Blake. That's that other guy.
My name's Father Blake. You're like, okay, well then I guess it's not you. Looks like your story checks out.
But so he makes it to Hobart Town disguised as Father Blake. He went to Conlon's house where he was greeted by none other than Nicaragua again. So they hadn't seen each other for about 5 weeks now at this stage since they split up. So they made a plan to leave on the ship Emma. Nicaragua returns to Bothwell to send Mrs. Mitchell and the 5 kids up to him. So yeah, this is where the kids come into it, which again, it doesn't make any sense really, so they're legally allowed to leave, I guess. And
well,
obviously,
so she stayed then after, like, so he would have handed in his notice as if to say, I promise I won't be leaving. But then, so cleverly enough, she didn't then, within 10 minutes, go into the same place and go, do you know what? I'm done with him. I'm taking all the kids and I'm going home.
Yeah, but it's not been that long either. It's only been like a few weeks, and now she's saying, I'm done with him. I'm taking all the kids and I'm going home.
I suppose she could just turn around and say, well, look, I came over here for him. He's after running away. There's no reason for me to stay here on this island that's a prison. So, I mean, it's fair enough that they couldn't hold her.
Yeah. But so she gets on board the ship Emma. So Mitchell can't openly board the ship, so the ship sails off and picks up a Mr. Wright from a special boat that rows out to it, which is our boy John Mitchell in yet a third disguise for, again, no reason. So I think he's probably still dressed as a priest.
He's like a rapper. He just at a live performance, just costume changes. Yeah. Why? Because it looks cool.
Sure, he's just having a good time with it. But the boat lands in Sydney for a while, and he lays low there. And on the 2nd of August, 1853, he sets sail for America.
America.
Yeah. So when Mitchell landed in San Francisco, he was greeted by tens of thousands of people. And then he travels across the country to New York. He gets there in November. There's a procession. There's a 31-gun salute, and he was greeted with city and state honors.
Wait, what? Wait, why?
Hmm.
Why was he given this hero's welcome?
See, I read a lot of, in fairness, a lot of that comes from his own journal. But
yeah, but that's
no, but he's seen as this great, there's a couple of different reports of it. He's seen as this great Irish hero. People wanted him to become the first president of the new state when it was founded. Like, De Valera quotes him as being a great influence. You read the review of his book from Pierce. Like, all the Irish Americans, all the Fenians in Ireland thought he was a hero. Like, he got sent off. He was one of the young Islanders. So they love him. And they're happy to see him. And that is the end of John Mitchel, the Sound Man. So, while he was in New York, he established the radical newspaper, The Citizen, which was an Irish-American anti-British publication. It was also pro-slavery. This did not go over well with his new liberal mates in New York, and within about 6 months, he had squandered all of the goodwill he'd received on his arrival. So, he started visiting the South, where his opinions were better received, and in 1855 he moved to Tennessee, just outside Knoxville. Mitchell
which I've been to. Fair enough.
Yeah, probably a nice place.
Tennessee. I think you're playing fast and loose.
I thought Knoxville was supposed to be like a cool place.
I don't know. The home of Superman's pretty good. What's it called? Metropolis. That's actually a town there. It's pretty small. They've got a Cleveland in Tennessee. Again, pretty small town kind of shit. Nashville's good fun.
Yeah.
Good music. Even if you don't like country, you're getting great country.
But so Mitchell was making a living through journalism and lecturing, and as he lectured around the country, he noted the growing fraction between North and South, and grew increasingly in favour of the South. While on a tour down the Mississippi, he reaffirmed his ideas that slavery was good, both for the master and the slave. I have no idea how he got that idea while travelling around the Mississippi. But he argued that Africans were innately inferior and that they had a better quality of life working on plantations in America. He maintained that a society based on free competition resulted in exploitation of the weak, whereas the slave system provided for the social well-being of all. And the slaves on southern plantations had more comfortable lives than the overworked factory hands of Manchester or the starving courtiers of Mayo. So,
Christ.
His logic being that in a free society, the weak are exploited, whereas in a slave system, there's already weak being exploited, so then you can't be exploited.
I mean, he's not wrong. He's just a terrible person.
Yeah,
I mean, in terms of basically, if I'm not wrong, what he's saying is we should have a slave system where we know that we're not going to be slaves.
Yeah, that's the thing. Apparently, this is not an uncommon belief amongst Irish Americans at the time. Reason,
we have a long history of that, seemingly between that and a lot of the the Pacific Isles or islands, I should say. Between Fiji and places like that, as well as Jamaica. And I think, isn't it? Now, tell me if I'm wrong. The only difference was that Irish people went over as slaves, but more as indentured servitude.
Yes,
that we were able to buy our way out of slavery. And then we turned straight around and bought a load of black slaves.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, because we're terrible people at the back of it all. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's the same, I guess, with the South Africa scenario where, you'd be sent out initially as a slave, you'd work, but you could get your freedom. One of the key differences is, if you're, slaves, their children were slaves. Whereas the indentured servants, it was just, you did your time, and then you had your life back.
Yeah.
But, so that's his reasoning as a reasonable man. In 1957...
You had me on board all the way up until the clear and obvious racism.
The Proud Boys of Ireland. But so in 1957, Mitchell starts another newspaper. I don't know how many newspapers are in this story, but a lot. But he starts another one with the mayor of Knoxville, the Southern Citizen, to promote the value and virtue of slavery, both for the Negroes and white men. Which was good to include both people.
Again, you want more than one part of the deal to be getting a good deal. One side of this transaction.
But he does seem to genuinely think that. I don't know what his logic is behind it, but anyway.
Oh no, I can see his logic as an racist.
Yeah,
but he probably looks at it and goes, I'm gonna do an accent now that's in no way representative of the type of people that in which it sounds like. But alright, yeah, but sure, he's fucking like he's living over there in Africa, and it's like fucking terrible. Of course you'd rather live in England as a fucking slave than fucking have your own freedom over in Africa. There's, again, in no way a representation. Yeah, I see how certain people might have those ideals.
So he found himself at home in the South, which he saw as being protected from modern progressiveness and the debauchery of capitalism. He seemed to prefer the debauchery of owning humans, but he wrote about the divide between North and South, stating the South should secede, and comparing them to Ireland and England. In response to the obvious hypocrisy of what he was on about, he claimed, in both cases he sought to liberate an underdog from the oppression of an arrogant neighbour by repealing an unjust union. So, he's gotten fully nuts now.
Like, I'm on board with half of that.
Yeah.
But if he took his ideals of Ireland and England and just stuck to that, fine. Don't use that as a template to look at the American slave trade.
Yeah. But so in 1859 there was some rift between England and France, so he travels to Paris on the hopes that it would lead to war that Ireland could take advantage of. So he hasn't forgotten his roots, which is nice, I suppose.
Never forget where you came from.
Nope, he hops over there at the first opportunity. So when he got there, he found there was no chance of war, but decided to settle for a while anyway. From there, so while he's there, the South secedes from the North, which he approves of, in February of 1861. And then war breaks out in April, and two of his sons who had remained back in America enlist for the Confederate Army, John Jr. and James Mitchell. So, in 1862, Mitchell wants to return to be closer to his sons, and his third son, Willie Mitchell, is now 18 and wants to enlist. So they head to Richmond, the capital of the New South, which, as far as I understand it...
Wait. Did you just say that this dude's name was Bill Mitchell?
No. Willie Mitchell. Bill Mitchell.
Yeah,
was it?
William Mitchell.
Yes.
So Bill Mitchell.
Yes.
So his name is Bill Mitchell.
His name's Bill Mitchell, yeah.
Like the dude from EastEnders.
That's Phil Mitchell.
I have to cut that whole thing. Anyway, go on.
No, please just do a Phil Mitchell impression there for the rest of this. But
I can't do a Phil Mitchell. I can do a Peggy.
But as
stay away from my family. Get out of my pub. Get out of my pub. Stay away from my family. You slag.
In a sense, that is what Willie Mitchell was all about. So yeah, they headed to Richmond, where Willie enlisted, and John tried to enlist, but he was short-sighted, so they wouldn't take him into the army. But he served with the ambulance unit.
He didn't have great vision, or he was just very bad at planning for the future.
He was short-sighted in that. It turns out slavery in 2020 not such a good look. Didn't really stand the test of time, that one. But so he lends his writing skills to the Richmond Daily Inquirer, another newspaper. As the South started to lose manpower, a few generals suggested the slaves be freed and armed to fight for the South. Mitchell strongly opposed this, saying that if they were good enough to be freed, then the South had been wrong all along. Not realizing that the South had been wrong all along. So at Fredericksburg, John Jr. and Willie fought with the Virginia Division against the Union Army's Irish Brigade, led by their dad's old mate, Thomas Meagher. They both survived, but Willie was later killed at Gettysburg. Mitchell said his son could have had no more enviable fate. He died in honourable company. Growing increasingly disillusioned with Jefferson Davis's leadership, Mitchell resigned from the Richmond Inquirer in 1863.
And their starship.
And their Jefferson starship. And he joined the Richmond Examiner. Possibly, I'm imagining it's literally across the road. And he took up his hat in a harumph out of one place, stormed across, and then just started writing for this other paper, which let him be more racist.
Good use of the word harumph.
Great harumph. So he's a lead writer there, and he starts blasting Davis for being too chivalrous. He also wrote for Irish newspapers back home, trying to stop Irish men from enlisting in the Union Army. I think it was something like 150,000 Irishmen fought on the Union side and 20 on this Confederate side. But anyway, he's trying to stop people joining up on the Union side. Ulysses S. Grant led the Union army down on Richmond and laid siege to the city in June of 1864. Around July, Mitchel learned that his other son, John Jr., had been killed at Fort Sumner. His last remaining son, James, had lost an arm in the fighting and was sent to Richmond in September for a staff position, presumably to be closer to his old pa. In April 1865, the Union army breached Richmond and Mitchel fled to Danville, which, if only silent producer Dan was here for this.
I know we've lost him now because we're doing this on our own with Transatlantic. This is, he'll hear it.
He will, yeah. This one's for you, Danny boy. He refused to concede.
Oh, Danny boy!
He refused to concede that the South had lost, even after Lee's surrender to Grant in April, but eventually admitted defeat in May. He returned to New York and worked as an editor at the New York Daily News, an anti-war paper. This made some people a little unhappy, and they demanded his arrest, saying that he had spurred the South on all during the war, some even implying that he had a hand in Lincoln's assassination, which I think had happened in April. I think it was mostly that he was writing all these articles and was vehemently anti-North and pro-slavery, and then as soon as the war was over, he just started working at a liberal newspaper. He told them all to shut up and kept writing vaguely anti-union pieces until he was arrested at the newspaper offices in June.
What do you mean? What's vaguely anti-union?
So they had Jefferson Davis in prison, and he kept...
Is that like an article saying, "Do you know all these black people?" I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying. Is that the headline?
He had an editorial called "I'm not racist, but."
Yeah, you know me. I'm a good person.
A weekly newspaper column. So he's arrested and charged with sedition, which is a beautiful full circle.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, so he's sent to Fort Monroe, where there's only two other people in the prison. One of them is Jefferson Davis. So conditions in the prison were terrible, and after 2 months, a doctor told Mitchel's jailers that he would die unless things changed. So he was granted some outdoor time, better food, and some reading materials. But his martyrdom in the prison made him a hero in the South, with Robert Lee saying he was a gallant gentleman and a tower of strength to the Confederate cause. So many leading Irish Americans campaigned for his release, and finally on October 1865 he was let go. That's
fantastic.
That is.
That's amazing.
Good for the
Also,
boys.
did you say martyrism instead of martyrdom?
I did, yeah. Yeah.
Alright, I know, because what happened there was I had to pause you to say, like, oh, that is a great thing. Also, the thing I really wanted to interrupt was, are you an idiot?
I think you also were so eager to say that you said that is a great thing. He's the guy was just released from prison.
I stopped paying attention the second that I knew I could call you on it.
I could tell you were very happy there.
So what was it? What happened after that?
So a lot of prominent Irish Americans called for his release, and he was released from prison.
Oh, no, that's a terrible thing. He's a really bad dude.
Yeah.
But he's as bad of a dude as you are illiterate.
Sure, yes.
Very much so.
So I had read one account that the American Fenians wanted to make him the head of the Fenians in America, even after all the war stuff. I don't know. It seems like they were still on his side. Yeah,
I think it's fair to say that, look, Irish people can paint themselves in any way they would like. There's a long history of racism with our country.
Yeah.
In terms of, like, slave ownership, and also in terms of, like, it's modern day. We have to there's a lot of problems there, in terms of how people view other people. The problem is that they don't view them equally. And so it's like, I can see that you don't want to be positive about the IRA and many things that they would have done. But yeah, back then, even when they were doing things that would have been the benefit for our nation, there probably was also a lot of those people you wouldn't want to have a pint with these days.
Yeah. But so Mitchell's lawyers advised that he would probably be arrested again if he made any trouble, and that he should move back to Europe until, just so they should move back to Europe. He found it deeply ironic that merely for expressing his opinions he had been imprisoned successively by two states in the Western world that most prided themselves on the progressive and liberal ideas. He said they are both in the wrong, but then if I am able to put them in the wrong, they are able to put me into dungeons. So he still seems... I mean, it's not as if he's just down the pub talking about how he loves slavery and he thinks it's a good idea. He is actively publishing propaganda for it, and the same with the sedition stuff.
Yeah, no, like I think we've come to the same point. Like,
he was hard done by.
It's like an episode of First Dates, either the UK or the Irish version. On the count of three or whatever, do you both want to say whether we'd go on a date with this guy again or not?
Okay. One,
two,
three.
three. No.
No.
Yo, you were so late with that, you fascist.
I'd like to go on a date with him just out of pure curiosity.
See, that's I wouldn't. So in future, for any listeners, if you're looking for racist opinions, hit up Kevin. And if you want, like,
if you're looking for a good time,
a nice boy,
Jason,
that's me.
So yeah, in order to keep out of trouble, Mitchell was offered a position of a financial agent for the Fenian movement in Paris. So he went back there in November of 1865, spent the next decade in Paris, and he returned to Ireland in 1875, where he was elected in a by-election as a member of Parliament in Tipperary. So even after all the stuff that happened, he was elected as one of the boys. But his election was invalidated on the grounds that he was a convicted felon. He contested the seat again in the resulting by-election, again was elected, this time with even more of the vote. And at the time, he died suddenly, but there had been an election petition that had been lodged. Well, the seat was awarded to his opponent anyway. But, so there you go. I mean, elected the first time, whatever, and then also be elected even more so the second time. This is a man who was quoted as saying, "We deny that it is a crime or a wrong or even a peccadillo to hold slaves, buy slaves, to keep slaves to their work by flogging or other needful correction." So that guy was elected in Tipperary twice.
Does it surprise you?
It does a little. Well, so sorry, that's 75. So he had been exiled in 36, I think.
Look, we shouldn't have. I mean, this is a terrible, terrible person because when you'd started this story, like it progressively throughout the first 20, 30 minutes, I was like, how did I not hear of this person before? How has he not come up in and then in the next 40 minutes after that, I was like, we've buried it.
Well, now we've not fully buried it. There's quite a lot of GAA clubs named after him. There's a statue to him in Newry still. Yeah, there's still bits of remnants to him around the country.
I suppose it's like the General Lee down here in Texas, and then in the south of America, you'll still find quite a lot of Lee.
I know, that was a big thing in America.
They've given him quite a lot of leeway.
A few years ago. Sure, yeah. But no, in fairness, you're right. At some point in the last 40 years, I guess, we realized that probably not one of our best and brightest, and was kind of dropped.
No, one of our best and whitest.
He was our brightest in that sense. But mostly what damaged him was that he lied when he was escaping from Van Diemen's land.
Yeah, if he just hadn't have done that, we would have all got back on board with him.
He would have been grand. But to end on it's a different note, but his son, so the guy who lost his arm, James Mitchell, became a New York City fire marshal. And then his son, John Mitchell, was elected the mayor of New York in 1913.
That is...
Yeah, so there you go.
That is pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's a curiosity.
Oh, that makes perfect sense. Because from that point onwards, then we can trace back the long-standing history of racism within the New York Police Department to an Irish citizen.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, well, at least there's that.
Yeah. So, thoughts?
Great story. A little bit less proud to be Irish. That's I mean, it's What are you?
The first bit's
What are you-
like it's kind of because we talked about it a bit for last week's episode, where he starts off as being a champion of the people. He's doing work for like the undertrodden Catholic class, even though like he's not Catholic.
The undertrodden.
He's
We should
crossing
be trodden on
land.
these fucking Catholics more.
Yeah, but and then he gets beaten down. He knows what it is to live in servitude. He knows what it is to be a prisoner, and then immediately just does the exact same thing when he gets to America.
It's I can't say I've enjoyed it. I'll tell you that. It's been a great story.
We could release it in 2 episodes. I'd say we need to release them at the same time almost. Or
Yeah, I
would
think that's fair. Just so people know that there's not a week there of like, oh Jesus, I should look into this fella. He seems like a great chap. But because if we release it week by like a week apart from each other, we just have to deal with the backlash of like, and the guys from Shite Talk were building this motherfucker up as a great man, right? And then we'd have to release the next episode and as like a faux kind of phony. Yeah, and this bad dude, he's all racist and whatnot.
So at least we'll have this recording as backup proof that we always intended to do the full story.
We've always here at Shite Talk Media been against racism.
Yeah.
Even when it's of the pro-Irish variety.
Well, that's it. Yeah. The end of season 2. What do you think about that?
The season or the episode?
The season. I liked it.
Yeah, no, it's been a good season. Everyone should follow us on Instagram. Get ready for season 3, which will be coming out in March. Hopefully, Kevin and myself will get to do this. We're going to record a full season cross Atlantic, like we have been with this episode, with these last 2 episodes. He's hoping to come over and we'll do a live podcast in Texas this time at some point this year. So that's what some of the money on Buy Me a Coffee will go towards, bringing that man out to meet me so we can record the season 4, possibly 5.
We'll just bang them all out then.
Just get them all done so we can keep... Maybe then it will be a weekly podcast, but it all comes down to how often we can actually get in front of each other's faces and tell each other stories.
Yeah, if you want to, you can email us story suggestions if you want. You can email us full scripts if you want as well. That'd be even nicer. I think one of our fans is working on a script.
Yeah, we're having a fan episode next season, so that should be fun.
Yeah.
Also, and if anyone thinks that we're particularly funny and they're here for the jokes and not so much the historical content, I would firstly say that seems like a giant waste of time because it's but secondly, because firstly, it is mainly a history podcast. Secondly, if you are a fan of our content and how we make jokes with each other back and forth, you're able to book myself and Kevin separately or together to come and perform stand-up comedy or a live podcast. So you can reach out to Shite Talk or our individual Instagram accounts for that. That's at Jason B Comedy or at Kevlar Comedy.
Yeah, I have noticed like a steady trickle of people following me from this podcast, presumably, which is good, but also disappointing for them because I don't have much content.
No, yeah, but, I tend to put out slightly more, but I'll constantly link back to Kevin as my associate.
But now that I'm back in Dublin, I'll start putting out more shit, which is basically just, I'm doing this gig. Come see this gig. Be a person at my gig.
And you all should, or if you're in Austin, Texas, or just in America, come see me or book me and fly me out to places.
That's it. So we've covered it all.
Yeah.
The usual, give us attention on social media, rate our thing.
Give us money on social media. Yeah, all of that.
That's it.
Yeah.
We won't bother you again for another probably 2 months. All right.
Yeah.
So, goodbye.
Good luck.